Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest of our Montgomery College construction project updates. We've got a lot of exciting updates to share with you tonight. So whether you're joining us live this evening, where we'll have our chat box open throughout for any questions you have, or if you're watching this later and want to follow up with us for questions, we really appreciate you being here and spending a bit of time with us. So my name is Michael Aiken. As usual, I will be your facilitator tonight. Our job at Link is to make sure community feedback and stakeholder feedback is reflected throughout this project. We're joined, as always, at these meetings by the venerable Brad Stewart, Dr. Brad Stewart, the Vice President and Provost of Montgomery College, focusing on the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus. We have Dave and Paul from Barton Mallow and Joe and Matt from Gilbane, and you'll be hearing from all of us throughout the course of the evening. Brad, any greeting you want to give before we go forward, sir?
I just want to say thanks for the folks in the audience. These forums have been very valuable for us. I hope they've been equally as valuable for you in keeping up with the construction projects. We're headed down the home stretch in the Leggett Building project, and we're moving as fast as we can on the Resource Center Library project as well. The students are fast approaching midterms for the fall semester already, and they are very, very anxious to be in both of the new buildings sometime after the first of the year.
Excellent.
So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. Here's what we're going to do tonight. This will look familiar if you've been to some of our other forums. We're going to start with the Leggett Building. We'll go through updates, and then we will stop and take questions then. Then we'll go to the Library and Resource Center. Same thing, review how we got here, updates, Q&A. And again, the chat box is open throughout. So let me turn it over to my friend Dave to take us from here. Dave.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. So welcome, everybody. So we'll kind of run through what we normally do for the project. We'll go through a current construction project status, look at a progress update, kind of where we are on the schedule, and re-review logistics because it's been such an important part of the project, from the beginning. So where are we today? If you look, we get to the next slide with the picture, we've made a lot of progress since the last forum. So there's a lot of glass on the building, as you'll see. The masonry of the brick has really made a lot of progress. Paul will talk about that along with the glass, but you can see what we call the enclosure has really made some great progress. And you talk about the site, we've done the work leading over towards New York Avenue, and then we're starting the grading on the other side of the site. Next slide, please. So kind of an overhead view, again, just showing all the progress we made on the picture on the left-hand side. You notice, like I said, our trailers are gone because we needed to work in that area and keep it open for traffic. You can see the roof hasn't changed a lot, a few detailing items, etc. And then that glass and masonry really has been the focus on the outside of the building. You look at the picture on the right, just a different view with the color selections of the brick, the glass, and kind of the site work, everything coming together. Again, great strides since we last talked. A long way to go, but just a lot of progress as we gotten to this point. So Paul's going to kind of walk us through the ongoing work right now.
Yep. Thanks, Dave. So kind of dropping down from the 30 or 40,000 foot overview that we just saw of the job, we're going to jump down into the weeds now and really focus on what we're doing on a day-to-day and kind of week-by-week basis. So with that being said, similar to what Dave had mentioned, masonry on the exterior of the building is substantially complete. We have a handful of brick here and there that have to be repaired, either for aesthetic reasons or install reasons. But we have parts and pieces to repair around the building there. At which time we'll do a formal punch list. So we'll go through around the building and physically mark up each elevation with any kind of brick or any kind of aesthetic adjustments that need to be made on the exterior. But taking a look at this slide, working from our left to the right, the left is the newly constructed service yard that'll serve the Leggett Building. So just behind the wall that you can kind of see there, we have a generator and stuff back there that will help service the building in the event of any kind of power outages and stuff like that. This service yard also is where our incoming gas comes in, so we'll have our gas meter and all that fun stuff there. But that work is actively ongoing right now. Hop into the middle and right photos. So not only, in these photos can you see the masonry that's been installed on the exterior, but you can also see some glass and glazing. And also, which is a little more difficult to see, is the stormwater management ponds, the bioretention ponds. So in the middle photo, you got kind of the tan and brown brick. Right below that, you see some of the more whitish substance. Those are the concrete ponds. So again, any kind of precipitation that hits this building, lands on the roof, rain, sleet, snow, ice, whatever, as soon as it does drain off the building, it does go into these ponds. That maximizes putting the water back into the groundwater, and minimizes any of this the runoff from the job site that inundates the WSIC systems and all that stuff. So again, the bulk, if not all of the water that's hitting this building, is perking right back into the ground. So those stormwater management structures run pretty much the full west side of the building. So these pictures are all taken from the Fenton Street side. They essentially start at the farthest north of the building and work all the way down to the south. And very similar on the east side, the campus side. There it's not the entire building, but it's about half of it. So again, the stormwater management, putting that water back in the ground, remains utmost importance, and is being constructed literally as we speak. So the next slide, we'll hop over to some of the parts and pieces and tools that we had been using, and some that we continue to use. But everybody who's been the last probably 2, 3, or 4 forums should be familiar with the photo on the top, the mortar storage silo. We did have a couple of those on site. Again, those minimized air pollution, minimized safety implications on the job site by not have to lift in thousands of bags one at a time, when you can use a piece of equipment, mechanical piece of equipment to do the heavy lifting for the guys and gals in the field. So the big lumpy mortar storage silos have been removed from the job site, with the bulk, probably 99% of the masonry materials, parts, pieces, and all that. That 1% remaining, again, where we have some touch up and some final corrections to do on the exterior, those will be performed by hand, and that's where you'll see the mortar mixer down on the bottom right of the slide here. Again, that runs off of a small, fractional horsepower motor, so it does make some noise, but it is relatively quiet compared to a typical generator or something like that. But we still will have some of those hand mixing stations, as well as these mortar mixers to do the final buttoning up the exterior of the building. The next slide, we will hop into the work that we have ongoing this week on New York Ave. So the photo on the left, you can kind of see the diagonal blue rectangle. That's depicting what we're currently working on. And that's where we do the final tie-in with the new apron, as well as sidewalks and curbs and gutter, to meet the existing that are currently on New York Avenue. So we've been crossing fingers last week for a nice sunny week this week, at least dry, maybe not sunny, but dry. We've obviously been lucky to get that. So we're looking at completing this work tomorrow afternoon or Thursday morning, and starting Thursday to demobilize, clean up that area, reset the fences, reopen sidewalks to the college, and get out everybody's hair on New York Avenue. So again, weather dependent this week. We will be sweeping off that new work and getting out of there. The next slide. Again, we kind of hit hard on the masonry, but the glass and glazing. The last update or two, you can see the windows now look like they're black. That actually is the final glass and glazing in the building envelope, or the exterior. So what you guys probably had seen before was the white plastic that might have been rippling in the wind. That was temporary protections to keep us moving on the interior while the glass was catching up. So the other thing that I want to point out on the photo on the left is the greenhouse. So the greenhouse, from a construction standpoint, is substantially complete. Now that we have water and different mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems coming online and becoming energized or piped with water, we will have the greenhouse contractor back in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks to perform his final testing, checkout, and verification of all of his components, which we call the commissioning process. So we'll go through, work everything to its bone, make sure it's all operating, prior to training the college's staff and faculty on how to use it before we essentially turn the keys over to them and let them have fun. The photo on the right, the photo on the right, it's pretty cool. You can see it's a different glass system, but it's the black and the black and the white glass. So that's a curtain wall system. So instead of having single unitized pieces of glazing in, this is essentially a glazed wall. So we do have about 4 pieces of glass or 6 pieces of glass that are currently in fabrication. And you can see where those are depicted on the right side of this photo. You can see the gray and white tarp and plastic. What we call that is kind of a slop corner. So you can field measure, as much as you want. But there are different tolerances within construction. So we purposely leave out corners. And what we use on the why we leave those corners out is if we're a quarter inch off, a half inch, or an inch, those corrections cannot be made in the field. So we purposely leave off the last connection, take our true final field measurements, which we have had done, and we send it out to fabrication. So that glass is currently being fabricated in Minnesota, and should be hitting Maryland the week of the 15th, 16th of this month. So next photo, we'll start hopping into the interior of the building. So what you can see here are some of our more generic laboratory classrooms. So obviously, starting on the photo on the left, we can see what looks to be like brown paper, construction paper on the ground. That's temporary protection for the flooring that's been installed. So step 1 is to get all the overhead work done, which is all mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire suppression systems, lighting, fire alarm, all that fun stuff. Get all that work done above head, get the ceiling grid installed, and then you can start working on the floor. Once we get the floor work done, we get it covered and protected, again, with this brown craft paper, and we maintain it as necessary to keep that floor in as good as condition as possible during the construction activities. You can see again on the photo on the left, and especially on the photo on the right, is we have some base wall-mounted cabinetry, or some base cabinetry. So that is the wood laboratory cabinetry casework that is being installed. It's difficult to see in the photo on the left, but on top of that base cabinetry, you can see what looks to be a blue line. That's the actual countertop with this protection on it. Obviously, the countertop in the right photo has not yet been installed, but we do have epoxy on site, and that epoxy gets sent on the countertops and then covered with plastic film as well as a cardboard-like material throughout the construction process to minimize any dents and dings and scratches. And then the photo in the middle here shows us doing some floor prep in one of the lab classrooms. So depending on what flooring type goes in, whether it be epoxy or laminate or a sheet vinyl, we have specific prep work that you have to make sure there's minimal moisture in the concrete slab that could impact the adhesion, as well as just the finish of the concrete, and the ability for the final flooring to be fully adhered to it, to meet the manufacturer's requirements. So this is just a photo showing us of doing some preparatory floor prep prior to the finished floor going on. The next slide is going to show some similar photos. So again, on the left, you can see where we have a countertop installed, and we have the hardy board or hard board on there. We call it ram board, but ram board to protect it from any of those scratch, dents, and dings. On the right, again, similar type casework, some wall mounted, some floor mounted, but the one piece of equipment that sticks out here is the white rectangle you can see, and it has a white small cabinet under it. That's a fume hood. We have a few dozen of them on the job site, but fume hoods are starting to be set in place and piped and powered. So depending on the hood, it could get a couple different gases, or just air and vacuum, or air, vacuum, water, pure water, etc. So lab equipment being tied in is definitely a major milestone that we're hitting on the job. The next slide is going to show our atrium. So this is kind of taking a look, or it's taking a look from the ground floor, looking up towards the floor of the second floor. So you can see, the metal stud framing that's still there. We're still running through some final inspections. But once those final inspections get signed off with the Bart Mallow, the college, and the county, we can then go and finalize the drywall there. So this is going to be a really architecturally pleasing space in the building. You can see on the ceiling, the design team really wanted to stay away from just straight flat walls and really try to make something a little more unique, a little more standout for the staff, faculty, and students here. So you can see all the different intricate framing that we have on the ceiling. That's really going to pop once you get the final lighting in there, the final paint. It's going to look phenomenal. Same thing with the photo on the right is you don't just have a standard drywall wall without any kind of seams and all that. So here we have reveals that are inset into the wall. So again, it'll give you some of that aesthetic, more like architectural panel work in lieu of the standard drywall you can pick up at the Ace or Home Depot. So again, just a couple of those aesthetic items in the atrium that are really going to pop. Again, with the natural light, the lighting that we're putting in, and all the drywall work that really going to look amazing. The next photo is going to show Mr. Harold's favorite spot in the building. So here we go. I see him pumping his arms. So here we go. We got the planetarium here. So it does look like a black room right now that just has a dome sitting in it, but that's done on purpose because you want to get that space dark to enhance any of the work that Mr. Williams is going to be doing in there with his students.
Thank you.
But what you can't see above that is all the different, is weeks, if not months worth of work of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire suppression, fire alarm, structural steel. All that stuff had to get coordinated, installed above the dome, then gets painted black, and everybody forgets how fun we had putting that stuff in and making it coordinate. So next steps in this room is obviously we have some final county inspections that we have to get done. So that's why you don't see any flooring in there right now. We're gonna have to erect some scaffolds and or use a mechanical lift. You can see the green mechanical lift on the left here in the photo. We have to get up and do final county inspections and sign off. So again, yeah, everybody hates working off a finished surface. So that's why we're holding off on the finished flooring in that room. But once all of that gets done, we can then call back the vendor, the installer of this equipment. We're expecting that to be in probably the next 4 to 8 weeks to come out and install what we call his parts and smart. So his computer, his projectors, his hardware, software, all that fun stuff. So Mr. Williams should be keep us on the calendar around Christmas time, but we'll be wrapping that area up and essentially closing and locking the door and hand the keys over to the college sooner than later. The next photo, here I turn it back over to Dave.
No, thanks, Paul. So, a lot of great work has gone in the building, like I said, since our last update or forum. So looking at the schedule, kind of took the things off that have been done for a while. The foundations and structure are still there. That's done. The building envelope that we've talked about kind of extensively in previous meetings, as well as this one, is underway. And then, the site finishes I talked about and the interiors Paul was talking about, those are ongoing. Paul mentioned, yes, the building envelope isn't 100% complete. That's why we put plastic up to allow the interiors to kind of move forward and just not wait till the end and be totally dependent on the weather for those things. That coupled with kind of working with WSSC to get the water meters finally puts us with us being done with the building, in early 24. Still working out all the final details with the college with kind of the final finishes, but we needed the water meters to be able to put water into the building and into our mechanical units. Paul talked about, the carpeting and those types of things, and we really need to have permanent conditioning in the building so that all of that stuff stays in great condition. So move on to the next slide. Now talk about some more upcoming work, the parking lot along the Tacoma Avenue entrance. Paul, we saw a lot of pictures with the lab casework, especially lab equipment that's in process and all of that that's going into the building. Our last major delivery of the casework, will probably be early or the end of this week or early next week. And then it'll be really small stuff after that. Our mechanical unit startups, that's a critical portion for us, and that's what we're currently in the process of doing, running water through the systems and running through all of their startup checklists to make sure, everything's running in mint condition. The elevator installation takes a while. It does on every project. So we do have cars in the building, elevator cars, but we're working on finalizing everything. And we can't really get to the end of the elevator installation until our fire alarms and sprinkler systems are all operational within the building. The flooring, the terrazzo and the epoxy flooring is about done. Those are kind of the hard surface floors Paul was showing and talking about. And then we have the carpet that's remaining. And again, as I had mentioned, we kind of need to get the final mechanical systems running in the building before we put that in the building. And then landscaping, is going to be something else. It's going to be pretty fun, to get started with that, starting in those retention ponds and the bio ponds, but also moving around the site. Next slide. So if we look at the parking lot adjacent to Tacoma Avenue, we talked about this at the last couple of community forums. So that gray area is the parking lot. That is the entrance you can see off of Tacoma Avenue, where we did start the grading in that area. This is equipment that has been on site before. So nothing new. It's just working that area now that we've cleared it out a little bit and got rid of our trailers. We'll be working, and I'll show on the next slide a little bit more, but we'll be working our way towards Tacoma Avenue so that we bring everything through the site rather than going on Tacoma Avenue any more than we have to. And, when we get to the end and the tie-in to Tacoma Avenue, we will have to be in the street a little bit just because of the nature of the work. There comes a point where we're just handcuffed inside the site. We gotta be going outside. It'll be minimal trucks. Again, a couple concrete trucks for the concrete apron and the curb and the sidewalk, and then taking the asphalt paving machine out of there. All of that will be coordinated through the weekly updates out of the community so that, there'll be no surprises, and we'll have appropriate safety measures in for all traffic control. And again, as we had talked before on this slide, really the blue arrows on the bottom left-hand kind of side of the screenshot, that's where we're bringing all of the materials and the equipment in. That's why we had to get rid of our job trailers. And we're holding off the grading in that area so that, again, to keep everything internal to the site, or at least everything that we can. So it's been working so far, but again, we're just getting started. We have that grading going, and then we'll provide the updates as we get closer to the work directly on Tacoma Avenue. So logistics, we've had one little change. Things seem to have been working very well, but you'll notice we used to have two entrances. We have one now where the yellow arrow is at the top. Because we've done the work in the service yard outside of Science North. But all of our trucks have been able to enter, in that entrance, circle around the site, and then exit back onto Fenton Street. So no real change other than without our trailers. We have a little bit more room, but as we start doing the final grading, it'll become a little tougher to move around, but we'll be in good shape. Won't have to change any traffic patterns. Everything should stay on Fenton, other than the minimal traffic when we get to the entrance at Tacoma Avenue. Our deliveries haven't changed. The concrete trucks, we don't have very many left to go, but there are some, again, with curb and gutter, sidewalk, light pole foundations. We have the pickup with the trailer behind it. We still get some deliveries that way. The flatbed in the middle of the screen, and then the box truck on the bottom right. So that's the majority of our deliveries. And again, the last of the large millwork deliveries will happen again by early next week. So more looking at these trucks as opposed to the next slide, as opposed to kind of these low boys and bigger trucks. We've been seeing fewer and fewer of those, and that'll continue as we move on towards the end of the project. Some of these trucks, later on, maybe bringing some furniture in for the college, but that's a different traffic pattern. We'll have a loading dock to use within the building to stay on Fenton Avenue. So Michael, that kind of wraps up our update.
I appreciate it, Dave. Excellent update. We're going to pause here. Hello, Harold. We're going to pause here to see if anyone has questions. You can use the chat or raise your hand, and then we'll go into the Library and Resource Center. We're going to leave a little space here for anything regarding Leggett. I'll just personally note, great to see some of those pictures. It's really cool to see how this is progressing. Any questions or thoughts?
Up ideas. Maybe I'll actually have keys sometime in March.
When should people
Just
expect
see,
keys?
people keep asking me, and school groups and all kinds of things. I'm besieged, and I'm trying to educate students and other people in the meantime, so we can start with a bang as soon as possible.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that, Harold.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, right? We need to get it done, and as we work with the college to get those dates, I'm sure those will be advertised within so that you have all the information you need.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or thoughts? Okay, and if you're watching this online and you have questions or thoughts, just make sure you go to the website where all of this stuff is available. We'll make sure that's dropped in the chat. We'll also make sure we share it as the meeting progresses so that you can share your thoughts with us that way. So with that, let's move on to the second part. We have a double feature here today. We're going to talk about the library and resource center renovation, and for that, we'll bring in our friends from Gilbane. Take it
Thank you,
away,
Michael.
Joe.
And thank you everybody for being here. Some of the agenda tonight is we're going to give you a project overview and talk a little bit about the project design directives. It'd be a familiar slide you've seen before, but we thought it was important to go through the project mission in general. We're also going to give you an exciting progress update, showing some of the progress we've made since the last update. And we're going to give you an overall timeline of the project. And then, of course, we'll be here for any question and answers you have about the project as well. So what is the project? The renovation of the Library and Resource Center is going to modernize the library. It's going to make it better to serve the students. It's going to increase the facilities for the library staff. It's going to enhance ADA compliance, including two new entrances, both facing in the same direction they were previously. And of course, it's going to increase the safety in general by upgrading some of the code requirements to the building. Some additional design directives are we are retaining the current size of the building. There's one exception, and that's it doesn't not encroach on the building footprint, but on the lower level on the south side, there was kind of an inset in the building. It was exterior to the building, and now we've enclosed that to make that the electrical corridor at the lower level. So without expanding the footprint of the building, we've actually given some more space to the students and staff. We are maintaining the height of the existing building. The main entryway to the building will continue to be oriented towards the math building. So the entryway pretty much remains the same other than being modernized. And any changes to the building facade and main entryway will respect the building's location in the historic neighborhood, including keeping some of the similar colors. We're minimizing the windows to light spill, especially on New York Avenue. And we're complying with all city, county, and state and permitting requirements, including tree protection and hazardous removal, which is completed. So here's another familiar side you've seen, and this is kind of a view from New York Avenue. This will be the new facade and windows. As you can see, the windows are narrow punch windows to minimize the light spill. And you can also see the color of the exterior of the building to match the color that it was previously in that photo. Some of our construction directives, the first one is very important to us, and that's adherence to the noise ordinance. No vehicles are starting up before 7 a.m. To help with some of the noise management, we make sure all the exhaust systems on our vehicles are in good condition. No vehicles can park on New York or Chicago avenues or any of the surrounding neighborhoods, which I'll show you on our logistics plan coming up. We do not allow any construction personnel to park in any neighborhood or metered parking. So we do have temporary parking for our vehicles. It's in 3 cutouts that's right on New York Avenue, adjacent to the Nunley Student Servants Building across from Pavilion 1. And it's right off of New York Avenue. Of course, with all this work, we're complying with city, county, and state. And I should add the residents' historic requirements, including tree protection and, again, hazardous removal. Next slide. So this is a little bit of the logistics plan, and you could see the blue is our route. So construction workers are parking in the parking garage on the 5th floor level. They're going down the blue lane, as you see, down New York Avenue, and going right into the yellow dot of the project. You can see all the areas we've read out where we do not allow any contractors to park. You can see in the right-hand upper portion of the slide, that's a contractor parking pass we've issued to all of our contractors. They're required to put this in their vehicles, so it helps us monitor any vehicles that could potentially park in any areas that are not allowed, so we can catch them right out of the gate in the morning and move those vehicles. You'll also notice from this picture on New York Avenue, that's also where we're going to back down vehicles into the job site and pull back out in the same direction on New York Avenue. This is a little bit closer view of the site logistics. As you can see, we're mostly a renovation, so the site's pretty well contained. We have a fence around the entire site. We have tree protection in all the brown areas you see on the site, and that's to protect all the existing trees. You can also see some of the fencing and everything contained within the fencing. And then those yellow areas are where we're backing down right now off of New York Avenue. So some upcoming work activities. We're currently working on the exterior wall framing and wall sheathing, and the air barrier will continue until late November. The mechanical electrical rough-in's ongoing, and that's going to continue until November. Masonry and concrete work has started at the main entrance, which will incur into October. The concrete ramp on New York Avenue will be built in November, and these activities will result in some increased concrete trucks going up and down New York Avenue that will quickly back into the job site, but none will occur before 7 a.m. Painting and interior finishes will begin in October. We've started some as we speak. And the ongoing construction of the masonry elevator shaft on the interior building will continue. And we'll have some nice photos to show you the progress on that. Structural steel will continue until November, including setting steel for the main entrance and the interior steel. All the steel work we're doing on site is being inspected by a third-party inspector and by the county. And all constructions, of course, complying with the noise ordinances. So here's some photos of the site, a little bit more progress from the last forum we had. On the left-hand side, you'll see the northwest corner of the building where we started some of the sheathing, and that actually is going to wrap the corner in a future photo. And then on the right-hand photo is the east side of the building. As you can see, we've nearly got that fully sheathed, and we'll be starting the air and water barrier on that shortly. Next slide. All right, so the picture to the left is showing the construction of the new main entrance. That'll be oriented in the same location it was before, just getting some modern upgraded finishes. We've completed all the demolition. We'll soon, that's one of the areas we're gonna be starting some of the concrete work, putting the foundations in and the structural steel to connect that roof, where we're modernizing that and making it a better ADA access for the staff and students. To the right-hand side, the photo is an example of some of the additional structural steel we put in, which is going to support some of the new exterior wall systems. They're actually finishing that up in that photo, and the work is now done and inspected by a third party and has been framed in front of you. To the left, you can see the framing was following it right as we got done. All right, so the photo to the left is going to be the north side of the building. This is the New York Avenue portion of the project. And as you can see on the left-hand corner, we've rebuilt the entire masonry of that corner, which was in poor shape from the previous construction, and now has been completely rebuilt and is solid and good to go. And on the right-hand corner is the area I said that turned the corner. So that would be the New York Avenue side of the building as it turns and meets the masonry to the far side of the left photo. So as you can see, we've got that sheath. We're going to be doing the air and water barrier and exterior wall finish in the next couple of months. So here's some photos on some of the interior progress. To the left, you'll see our interior elevator pit. That's now going up the masonry shaft itself, which will be the new elevator that serves the students within the building. The photo in the center is the first floor, showing some of the progress on the wall framing. As you can see, we've got the insulation in. We've got our mechanical electrical wall rough-in done and inspected, and we've started to hang drywall. We are working from the second floor down, so you'll notice some of the photos on the first floor are a little bit lagging from the second floor. That's just the way we're working from a progression standpoint. The photo to your right are some of the mechanical and electrical systems that have been installed, and the sprinkler system, which is substantially complete on the first floor level. So now some more interior progress photos. To the left-hand side, you'll see interior drywall on the second floor, which has now been spackled and finished. And our painters have actually started in that area. The right-hand upper photo is the opposite direction of that photo, kind of showing some of the main corridor spaces that would lead to some of the classrooms, finished, ready for paint. Just in really good shape, a lot of progress since the last update. You'll see some more down at the bottom of the page, just showing some examples on the second floor of some of the drywall work completed. And then some areas where we're still hanging drywall would be kind of the center right photo, where you see some of the pink insulation to the top of the page. On the right-hand side, you'll see nice, neat, completed mechanical work for the new mechanical systems. It's all been insulated, pressure tested, and we're nearing completed to do some of the control work and start up the mechanical units in the next coming month. So some of the equipment that you've seen from some of the last forum updates, the roll-off dumpster truck, that's one of the more common deliveries you'll see on site. We have another photo to show one actually on site in one of the future slides. The bottom two photos are a flatbed truck, typically for smaller deliveries. We've been using those to try to minimize the big delivery trucks on New York Avenue to the best of our ability. To the right-hand bottom, you'll see a typical construction work van. Our mechanical and electrical outfits typically work out of those. Again, they're backed up into the job site off of New York Avenue behind the construction fence. So here's to the left-hand side, you'll see one of our larger deliveries. As you can see, it's backed up all the way off New York Avenue, and that's a drywall and metal stud delivery. They need a larger truck like that because it needs a boom on it to unload the drywall. So that's one of the typical deliveries you'll see in the coming months. And then on the right-hand side, we wanted to show one of the dumpsters enclosed within the fence. This is the roll-off dumpster we had in an earlier slide, actually backed into the job site within the fencing, nice and neat, and making sure we keep that out of the main roads. Some more interior pictures. On the left-hand side, showing kind of from the first floor level looking up. It's kind of the main atrium area with some framing progressing and some drywall starting. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff going on there. And to the right-hand side, that's actually 3 weeks old. And that's a picture of when we were digging the elevator pit. And notice we used an electric backhoe, not only to minimize the noise, but to make sure we didn't have any combustible materials within the building or any diesel odors as such. So we use an electric backhoe for that work. All right, to look kind of ahead of the construction where we are, as you can see from the photos and the update, we're currently wrapping up the building envelope. We expect that to be done by the end of the year. The interior renovations ongoing at a steady pace, and we expect that to be done and the entire project to be done in spring of 2024. With that, any questions?
All right, Joe, thank you very much. So Michael's just had to step away very briefly. So hi, everyone. Good evening. My name's Poppy Humphrey, and I'm Director of Standards and Accountability with the folks over at Link Strategic Partners. So thank you very much for that fantastic update, Joe, and we will open it up to any questions. So if anyone's got any thoughts, feel free to jump in or put any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Poppy. I had a bit of a coughing spell there and you saved me. I appreciate it, but I am back. Any questions here, folks? Or comments or thoughts? Harold, if you're talking to us, we can't hear you, sir.
No, I'm still going to tell people, right, that we'll probably be in sometime of March of 2024, right? To the Leggett building.
Leggett building timeline. Harold's asking if March 2024 is what he can tell people.
I think, and again, I don't know if anyone from the college wants to answer, Harold. I think you're going to have to hear that one directly from Brad or somebody else, because I know I'm working through and Bart Mal's working through the with the college. I know that our construction, our portion of it will be done in that, that February timeframe, but we got to work through kind of FF&E and some other stuff. So I'm sure Brad, Marv, and Lisa will keep you updated as we finalize that.
I also have to help someone that's technically on family leave right now move physics and engineering stuff into the requisite wonderful places that you're preparing for us. Thank you.
Harold, we can't give you a March deadline. because there are some variables that are beyond our control.
I understand.
And so,
I've seen what county inspectors can do at unexpected times.
yeah,
They scare me.
We'll keep you fully updated, Brad, as
Okay.
we have clarity on that timeline. Absolutely.
Okay. Then I'll shut up.
No, anyone with a background that cool can ask as many questions as he wants, Harold. It's a great backdrop.
I'm actually giving a test right now, so I can't make too much noise because I want my students to do well.
Well done. Well done. Other questions, team? Comments? Okay, and for those of you who are following online, we will show you the website in just a second here. It's also dropped in the chat. Here is where you can ask questions. Here's where you can learn more. Got lots of information up here. This website is continually updated. It'll have the slide deck and presentation from tonight. Also a reminder that there's a project hotline that if you have a more real-time issue or question, you can go ahead and call that at 800-879-9879, and we'll make sure we're very prompt in our response there. I got a great comment in the chat. No questions. Thank you for the presentation. Absolutely. Thank you for joining. And if we go to this next slide here, we've got an upcoming public meeting. So if you've got one more meeting in the tank for this week, we've got a final meeting of the facilities master plan for the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus on Thursday, October 5th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. This community's been so engaged and so part of the process every step of the way. This is where we're going to kind of show you the results of everything that's come through that process so far. Won't be a surprise to anyone, especially those who've been following this process closely. But if you're interested, please come back out on Thursday. You can follow that QR code using your smartphone to learn more information about it. And it's also on the website that we showed before. Thank you, Harold, for the comment. That it was a wonderful presentation. One last call for questions, comments. Thank you, Elizabeth. I see the clapping hand emoji. Excellent. Well, we hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday night, and thank you so much for your engagement. Bye-bye.